Welcome, guys. Thanks for coming out to our In the Constitution for Youth series. Today, our topic is going to be self-evident truths. Where does that phrase come from? Any guesses? Liz?
Declaration of Independence.
Yep, the Declaration of Independence. That's where it comes from. Self-evident. What's the word you think of when I say self-evident? Adelaide.
I know self-reliance.
Okay, self-reliance. Self-evident. Elizabeth?
Able to see without someone having to explain it to you.
Able to see without someone to have to explain it to you. What if I said this word that starts and ends with us? Obvious. Is obvious maybe a good word for self-evident? What's going to happen to this pen if I let go? It's obvious, right? It's self-evident, okay? Now, if we go here in this pen and in my hand, we're like, okay, I'm going to let this thing go. But meanwhile, the legislature, Congress is in session, and they vote about a law, and they say, we're going to make a law that says gravity doesn't exist anymore. Ready? They passed it, signed. The president signed it. It's just hot off the press. When I let go of this, remember, there's a law that says that gravity doesn't work anymore. What's going to happen? It doesn't matter. Gravity doesn't mind. Gravity doesn't care if there's a law that says it doesn't work because it's a law of God. It's, as the founder said also in the Declaration, the laws of nature and of nature's God. So we're going to talk today about some self-evident truths. The first one is this idea of self-rule. Self-rule means I'm in charge of myself. Anyone here have a dog? Drake, what type of dog do you have? A puggle. A puggle, okay. I'm not sure what that is, but what'd you name your puggle? Lyle. Well, man, I guess you hadn't heard. Did you know that there's a rule that says you can't name puggles Lyle? You didn't get the memo? Now, I am the mayor of this town. You shall not name your dog, your puggle, Lyle. What are you going to say about that? You are, aren't you? Because it's obvious. It's a self-evident truth that you get to name your dog whatever you want to name your dog. Is that right? Exactly, okay? Now, what if I'm the President of the United States? You cannot name your dog Lyle. You're still going to name your dog Lyle because it's a self-evident truth that we have the right to self-govern, to self-rule. We're in charge of ourselves. And our laws in the Constitution are written based on the idea that we self-rule because God gives rights to individuals. He gives us life, liberty, and property. We get to do what we want to with those things, okay? Does that mean you can do anything you want to because you're self-ruling? No, you can't do anything you want to. You can't do those things that would invade and violate other people's right to life, liberty, and property. Okay? You can't do that. That brings us to the next principle, the self-evident truth that doesn't change over time. And this next one is called representation. Okay? Who here has a bike, let's say, a bike that you value? Yeah? Now, do you really like it? You don't want anyone to steal it? Why are you not home watching your bike then and making sure and protecting it, making sure no one gets it from you? Adelaide, why aren't you home? Who's making sure? It's in your garage? And Brody, do you have a natural self-evident right to protect your bikes? Your bike? You do, right? Okay. And so can you delegate, can you give that power to protect your bike from someone stealing it? Can you give that to government to do it for you? Yes, because I have the right. I'm going to hire government. I'm going to hire a police officer to protect my bike. That way you can come to a presentation, you can go to school, you can go to church, you can go have fun, you can play. Because we have representation. We hire someone to represent us and do for us what we could do, but we have them do it for us. Okay? Now, taking that principle of representation, let's say this police officer is really good at protecting bikes, and I say, you know what? I really like ice cream. Hey, police officer, go take that ice cream cone from that kid over there. I want it. Is that right? Is that legitimate? Is that the proper role of government? No. Why? Because as you as an individual, can you go over and forcefully take an ice cream cone from somebody? No. So if you can't do it, you can't give to government the power to do something you yourself can't do. That make sense? Huh. Interesting, huh? Last part of representation is we choose and we elect people by doing what? By voting for people to make laws. Okay? Representatives. We have in the state level, we have legislature. At the national level, we have a Congress. They make laws that help provide protection of our rights. That's the other principle of representation, okay? And our Constitution talks all about that representation, that we have the House and the Senate that make these laws, and those laws, they can only make laws that protect our rights. Because would it be fair for them to make a law that says, I'm going to take from you to give to you? No, because that's stealing, right? And government can't do that. I can't do that, so government can't do that, okay? So representation, that's the second self-evident truth. The third self-evident truth is this idea of limited government. Okay? So we have a cop who's really good, okay? The cop's just really good at protecting all of our things. And we say, you're so good at that we want you to have a little bit more power. And the cop says, okay, well, I'm going to tell you what to wear, who your friends are, when to eat, what to eat, how to spell your name. I'm going to tell you everything. How's that sound? Whoa, 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 hold on, okay? One of the basic principles, the self-evident truths of our government is the idea of limited government, okay? That they only do certain things. They didn't do everything. They only do certain things. Those certain things revolve around protecting our rights, okay? Part of the Declaration of Independence says that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. The reasons governments are instituted or made among men is to secure or to protect our rights. That's why they exist. Not to go around and tell us everything we can and can't do and command us and control us and take from some and give to others. That would be an unlimited government. We aren't an unlimited government. We're a limited government. Okay? Does that make sense? You good? Okay. All right. Now, the next one is this idea, this self-evident truth of checks and balances. Who here has ever heard about checks and balances? Okay, checks and balances. We have these different forces that control and check others, so not one of them gets too far in control. We're picking on police officers today, okay? So we're going to have a police officer that is in charge of executing the law, right? When a police officer pulls you over, what does he do? He gives you a ticket and says, look, you broke the law. He doesn't pull you over and say, well, I'm going to tell you what a new law is, etc., etc. He executes the law. He carries out the law. Now, the challenge with checks and balances is if you get all the powers combined into one. We have 3 different branches of government. What are they? Remember? Speak loud. Legislative. What else? Executive. Judicial, okay? We have legislative that makes the law, executive who carries out the law, and judicial who applies the law to cases that are brought before him as a judgment. Okay? So, here's an idea. We have this police officer who's in charge of executing the law, but he one day says, I'm tired of just executing law. I want to make laws too. And I don't like motorcyclists. I don't like what they do. And so, I'm going to write a law that says there shall not be any motorcyclists on the road anymore. Who here likes to ride motorcycles? Sam? Ben, Brody, you like riding motorcycles? So you're riding along, you're not yet, right? You got to get older and get your driver license, but you're driving along in your motorcycle and a cop pulls you over. So you pull over and you say, hey, what did I do wrong? You say, oh, well, there's a new law I just wrote and says you can't ride motorcycles. What would you say to that? You're a policeman. You don't write laws, you execute laws. Did the legislature pass a law? No, but I'm the policeman. Doesn't matter, does it? Wait a second. So you say, well, I've got some rights here. I know what I do. When my rights are violated, I go to court. Okay, and I go before the judge to try to get this thing cleared up. So I'm going to go to court. I show up to court the day of my appearance, walk in there, and who's up is sitting in the judge's seat? The policeman. And you think, oh, I'm dead. I'm dead. There's no way I'm going to win this thing because what happened there? The policeman made the law. The policeman executed the law, and now the policeman is going to judge whether or not that law is fair. Are you set up for failure here? Yeah, because he's going to say, well, here's what I think is fair, and here's my judgment on it. And you're dead, aren't you? But in America, we have a checks and balances. So the person who makes the law is different from the person who executes the law, who is different than the person who judges, okay, and applies that law to the case that's in front of them. That's a powerful idea, isn't it? Because otherwise, you're pretty much stuck. Do you know what other countries have? Almost every other country has the same people who make, execute, and judge the law. What does that lead to? Failure. It also leads to this idea of tyranny. This idea we talked about in another presentation. This idea of tyranny that might is right. Look, you have no chance because I make it, I carry it out, and I judge. It's over. Your freedom's gone, isn't it? In America, our rights are protected by checks and balances, okay? So let's review one more time those principles we talked about, these self-evident truths. Self-rule is the ability and the right from God to govern yourself, okay? Secondly, the principle of representation. You can give to government powers that you yourself have, but you can't give to government powers that you don't have. You elect people to represent you and do those things you could do on your own, okay? Third one is limited government as opposed to unlimited government. Government doesn't do everything. They do certain defined things, and that's what the Constitution does. It has a list of the few things they should do. It's not an unending, open-ended, you can do whatever you want to. It's here's a few things you can do, and those are the things they do, and they should do well. But they shouldn't be unlimited. They should be limited. Lastly, checks and balances. A division of those powers, those who make the law, those who carry out the law, and those who judge the law. Okay? So let's wrap up with the end of the preamble, right? The preamble, the introduction to the Constitution. This is what our founders said, okay? They said, we do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. When they ordain and establish, they set it up, they write it down, okay? So how many of you ever played the telephone game? Remember that, where you whisper something in someone's ear? Like with Liz, I whisper, Jill likes to play on swing sets, okay? And she tells Adelaide, and Adelaide tells Kate, and Brody. It goes through all of you, right? Until it gets to the very end. And what's it come out as in Drake? Drake says, the Green Bay Packers are my favorite football team. It's totally different, isn't it? Because it changes. When you talk, when you just rely on the oral passing down of things, it gets all muddled just between 12 kids, right? Why does that happen? Because it's not written down. It's not established. Our Constitution is written and established so that if you guys have a question about what your rights are that come from God, you can go look in where? Our law, which is called the Constitution. Okay? It's ordained and established. It's written down, and that's the power of it. So it's not just, well, I heard that they said this, and well, I heard this, and next thing you know, 227 years later, we have a whole different Constitution. Our Constitution, except for the 27 amendments that have added to it, that have been written down, is the exact same. Why? Remember from the other presentation? Because the Constitution is based on principles of freedom and on human nature. Okay? So they ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. It's a great blessing to have the Constitution. It's a great blessing to have those freedoms and to have these self-evident truths that are protected. These self-evident truths, these rights that come from God, they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Because of those things, because those things are true, and we formed a government and the Constitution that revolves around protecting those things, we're free in America. I think that's something to celebrate. It's something to be happy about. Okay? Great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.